The Locked On Podcast Network presents The Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
Cooper Flagg's debut in NBA Summer League. There were struggles, but there were also a lot of really good things to take from it. Cooper Flagg did struggle in this game, and he shot 5 of 21. I think that's the thing that's going to hit a lot of headlines. They're going to be really stupid headlines where it's going to be like Cooper Flagg, 5 of 21, inefficient shooter, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Cooper Flagg even said himself after the game, not up to my standards, but I'm going to be all right. And I think that's the thing about him is that I liked the shots that he took. It showed off the arsenal of how many different types of shots he can get to. And I think that's the thing that I take away. Even though he didn't really, not a lot of them went in, he can get to so many shots that not many players can get to.
Listen, I mean, with Cooper Flagg, it's like in the Summer League game, especially if we're just going to see him for a couple games here, then you're going to play him a ton of minutes. He played over 30 minutes in this game, which is a decent amount for a Summer League game. And what do you want from the number one overall pick? You want him to go out and just start taking shots left and right. And if you just see the stat line and you don't and you didn't watch the game, then you didn't see the doubles, the blitzing, how aggressive they were playing with him. They were fouling him, felt like every other possession, just like but it's
that
just like
wraparound pass where their wraparound where like somebody's pressuring him, he gets by him, and then they wrap around and foul him. It felt like it happened 18 times in this game.
Yeah, well, even like one of those post-ups against Bronny, Bronny's just fouling him left and right. And, then he loses the ball out of bounds. And that was before Cooper just raised up over him and hit the shot. But even the broadcast, he's putting the clamps on him. I'm like, whoa, what are we doing here? But that's part of it. That's Summer League, right? So if you see the shooting numbers and stuff, some of those shots, I want him taking shots. It's Summer League. I don't care if you go 5 for 21. Who freaking cares? So go take the shots. That's what everybody's here for. That's why the arena is packed and chanting. Okay.
No, they're here for Bronny, Isaac.
Well,
they're
Bronny
here for
too.
Bronny.
I thought Bronny's shot looked good.
You said something positive about LeBron James Jr.
No, no. I have nothing against him. I thought his shot looked good. I thought he looked better. I thought his body looked better. Everything. It's just. I'm happy for him.
Tell me more about how his body looks better.
He's fighting for a roster spot in the league. So,
no, he's got a guaranteed one. He's got a contract.
Oh yeah, I forgot that. Yeah.
No, but the thing about ball pressure is the thing that I'm really taking away from this Cooper Flagg debut is that the Lakers pressured him when he had the ball every single time. It was as if if he got an inch of space, he was going to beat them. You know what I mean? And that
they watched Caruso and Dort in the finals, and they're like, dude, we can do that defense nonstop. We can do it too.
It felt like it, and that to me shows the level of respect that Cooper Flagg has. Again, he is the youngest player on the Mavs Summer League team by 2.5 years. I think I need to keep saying that because it's just so insane. But that level of respect, and he only had 1 turnover in the game. All that pressure did not make him fold. He still took his shots. Now, he missed a bunch of his shots, but like we said before, I like the process of it, and I think that the way that he was able to handle that pressure is a huge positive because we're trying to see in Summer League, the only real thing I really want to see from him is can you be a lead ball handler in a fringe NBA context?
Yeah, and I still don't like him in that type of role. They gave the ball to him. He didn't bring it down the floor every other time, whatever.
He did a lot though. When Ryan Nembhard went out, it was basically him, and then sometimes Jordan Hall. But he brought the ball to the floor a decent amount.
Yeah, a decent amount there. He's going to get the ball at the top of the key and then say, "Hey, create." First play of the game, and he goes with his left hand. I think that's one of my. He's so tall, so when you're asking a guy like that to create as much, you got to be tight with the handle. Because it's just inevitable. It's just hey, science here. You're dribbling it higher than a guy like a Ryan Nembhard. But one of the takeaways for me is just how good he is with his left hand. That you can tell, and I guess it sounds like, hey, well, you learn how to dribble with your offhand whenever you're in Little League. But I mean, he was just very, very comfortable with his left hand, driving to his left, pulling up, just all the stuff with his left and get to the basket. So I was impressed with that.
He was not in Little League basketball that long ago, too, right? Like,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, yeah, I take that away. I mean, his defense stood out, too. He basically had that game-winning block, which was massive. And, they didn't attack him at all. I think that's something that is notable, that they didn't go at him at all. There was very few times where he was actually, like, defending on the ball because they weren't going to attack Cooper Flagg that much.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah. It's for Cooper's debut, it's the rising up over Bronny for that shot. I mean, he's so big and so long that, like, that's the type of stuff that, when you have that ability to elevate like that and you're that big, it's hard for people to kind of like block that shot. So he's going to get that shot all the time. And tonight, of course, he like forced things at times. He shot a couple air balls. You saw the jitter. I mean, I thought the clip that the Mavs social team posted afterwards of Kyrie walking off the floor, and they're like, "Hey, what did you think of Cooper's debut?" Whatever. He's like, "Hey, the good team win. They got the jitters out." And you could tell when you're such a hype prospect like Cooper. I saw somebody post too online of like the most hype prospects for like summer league, and it was like Zion and like Wemby,
Lonzo.
Yeah, but like Zion and Wemby
Different
as these
way.
number one overall picks and stuff, and how both of those guys had like really underwhelming summer league games, the entirety of it. There's just so much hype, right? There's just so much. I mean, the arena's there, yes, for Bronny too, but it's like, it's the Cooper effect. I mean, everybody's doing specials and all the stuff for Cooper right now. So, you got the jitters out of his system some. Jack the shot up. I didn't care. I mean, if you're doing like field goal, numbers here and percentages in summer league, then and having a big takeaway, I don't know what to really tell you on that one.
I mean, you can take away he's really good still. I'm still going to take that away. I mean, he stood out, right? Everybody was paying attention to him. There's like a fake Neil Diamond doing a song right now, and there's like
who's singing behind you?
There's a fake Neil Diamond, and then there's these like go-go dancers with like feather like hats and stuff. It's very Vegas happening
What's
right now.
What's your night looking like tonight, huh?
We're still in a basketball arena. We still are.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Look, they're saving you money already.
The Oklahoma City Thunder officially have their big three locked up long term.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The offseason for OKC is, for all intents and purposes, over. I mean, that they have their standard contracts in place with their 15-man roster. They just signed J-Dub to a contract extension, the last of the big three to get his deal, as Shea's on a supermax, Chet's on a rookie scale max, and now J-Dub joins him on one. And now they just have one open roster spot, and it's in the two-way capacity. So that's something I find interesting, not so much globally interesting as it is the Thunder's top three. So this deal for Jalen Williams is a 5-year contract worth up to $287 million, a max contract extension. As Shams reports, the Thunder view this trio as their cornerstone for the rest of the decade. And the Thunder officially now will not have to relive the drama, the heartbreak, and the narrative surrounding that James Harden trade. There's no player option, no team option in this contract. And just like Chet Holmgren's, this kicks in during the 26-27 NBA season. I think with J-Dub, when you're looking at the investment into him as a player, You have to talk about the future for him, not just the present. The present is still good. Like what J-Dub is presently is an all-NBA player, an all-defensive player, an all-star, and a number 2 option on a title team who scored 40 points in the finals. That's what he is current day. And the beauty of this contract for the Thunder and for J-Dub himself is that current day perhaps will be the worst version of himself through the life of this contract because he can get better. And you look at what he did in the playoffs and the way that he performed after Game 6 against Denver. And the whole first round, he struggled in that Denver series until Game 6. And then in Game 7 onward, he was an electrifying player. He was a bona fide number 2 option who also filled in as a number 1 option in some games to keep the Thunder afloat, like whenever the Thunder were taking on the Pacers in the finals in Game 4, whenever, he kind of kept them within striking distance. And while Shea had the electrifying fourth quarter and he gets all the stats for it, and he put up, 15 points in the frame, and it was just a jaw-dropping performance in those 12 minutes, you don't get to that point without J-Dub's production in the first 3 quarters. And largely, Shea's production was built on the 2-man game between him and J-Dub, an element that we had seen sparingly in OKC, but they went to very heavily in that Game 4. Another avenue for them to explore that 2-man game of them playing off of one another, with J-Dub bringing the ball up and then getting Shea into a switch that is just beneficial to him. The Thunder can do that a lot more. But when you look at J-Dub as an individual, he made those strides in the playoffs where his mindset was entirely different. His force around the rim was entirely different. And his ability to dictate how the game flowed, the control he had with the ball in his hands whenever he had that opportunity in a secondary unit. And as we talked about in Game 4, the fourth quarter, like it was just a 180 from the stuff that we saw from J-Dub previously. He answered a lot of questions in that playoff run, one that he was battling through a torn ligament in his wrist. A torn ligament that if you go watch Jalen Williams' personal YouTube channel, I'd recommend all of you doing it for this video. He put out a video on his personal YouTube channel, and he talked about what all he went through in the playoffs. And here's some of the highlights, but I want you to go watch the entire video. He had nearly 30 injections into his wrists to be able to play, just to be able to play. 30 injections, and this is how he performed in the playoffs, all the great things we just talked about. He had to change his jump shot during the playoffs because the wrist was ailing him so much he could not shoot to the way he normally does in terms of just form. He re-aggravated the injury against Denver in that series. I believe he said twice he re-aggravated it. Once bracing a fall, once on a defensive play with Gordon. So you look at the adversity that he battled through in the playoffs and how he overcame that, and you already see the trajectory that he's on. And this is a great investment for OKC. And I think that J-Dub can continue to grow into a player that right now is at an all-star level. Maybe you can just call him a star, but he has superstar potential. Now, who knows if he reaches that superstar height, but he's for sure an all-star level player. If nothing else, like his floor is a consistent all-star. And I believe he can at least hit the, truth being in the middle of the star label if he's not there already. Of course, I don't think he's there already because he has to do it over a sustained period versus just, this season. But I think he's going to do that at the very least. And then we pose the same question that we posed yesterday about Chet Holmgren. What's the other option? If you're so scared about what the finances look like for OKC, which we're going to break down entirely on today's show now that we have everything in hand with what the future looks like, if that scares you so much, what's the other option? Because the dirty little secret about the same people who are fear-mongering you right now about the Thunder's future is that they just don't like Oklahoma City. And I don't like to partake in the us against the world mentality of this state, but it is true that the national media just simply does not like the Thunder. They don't like going to a flyover state. They don't want to come here. And OKC, being the best team in basketball, forces the national media to be here for the finals. It forces the national media to fly in for big games throughout the regular season. It forces them to be the topic of conversation when it's the last thing that they want to have happen. So they're going to pick whatever side benefits them. And I'll tell you why, because if the Thunder didn't pay one of these big 3 guys and they didn't keep this top 3 together, The Thunder would spend the summer being a laughing stock of like, oh, it's happening again. You didn't learn your lessons from the James Harden stuff. Now that the Thunder have signed up the top 3 guys, now it's, well, you've just ruined your trajectory. You've ruined your future. You're going to be so hamstrung under this new CBA. It's impossible to have sustained success. When the Thunder's future is anything but scary, it's anything but hamstrung. Is there hard work to do for them in the future, like we talked about yesterday, and we'll do it again today? Absolutely. But you look at how this is discussed, and it's discussed in the entirely wrong way. Memphis decided to punt on its core because it was not good enough instead of paying Desmond Bane. Are they in a better position because they avoided the precious second apron? They avoided the lofty tax bill. They avoided the big salary sheet. Are they in a better position than OKC? I just want to know what team is in a better position than the Thunder. Because if you don't like the Thunder's outlook, well, then whose outlook are you going to like? Because every other team either has an older core that's not good enough to compete with the Thunder's core, or a worse young core that either they're going to have to go the Memphis route or go the Thunder route and dish out massive extensions to guys who have not accomplished what this core has accomplished. So then who do you want to model yourself after if the Thunder aren't doing it right? Then who's doing it right? The thing is, like we said all season long when people continued to doubt this team, if you just take the negative stance and you never put a take out there, you never have a bold opinion, you never want to crown anybody, you never want to act like anyone's good until they've actually done it, then you're going to be right more often than not. Because right now, the take that's easy to make is that the Thunder are never going to win again. They're just never going to do it. Because winning a championship is hard. You need luck. You need skill. You need a combination of all of it. And the best team doesn't always win. It's the breaks. It's life. And so the ability to bank on the fact that only one team out of 30 can win a title, if you just bet against whatever team that you're talking about, you're often going to be right. And so, yeah, the Thunder may never win it again, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to have sustained success and have the opportunity to have the ability to compete and be a contender. They will be a contender for the rest of the decade. No matter the contracts issued to now that we know it's max contracts to J-Dub, Chet, and Shea. They're going to be a contender for the rest of the decade, and it's going to be very hard to capture more and more titles. But again, I ask you, who has a better chance to do it? Who has a better position? Whose kind of identity and future and roster would you swap with if you're Oklahoma City? Nobody. Nobody. And it's easier for the Thunder to build around J-Dub, Chet, and Shea because they all can fit multiple roles on the court, playing multiple positions, particularly J-Dub and Chet, because Shea's role is kind of defined in the sense of he's going to obviously be your best player for the rest of the decade. He's going to obviously be a kind of a guy that can lead the league in scoring as he did this season, an MVP caliber guy as he has been the last 3 seasons and won it this year. So like his role is more set in stone, but J-Dub and Chet, we've already seen them play multiple different facets and archetypes of the game. They're also 27, 23, and 24. They're already good enough to win a title. Who would you rather be if not OKC? And it's going to be difficult to sustain this in the sense of championship level, but to sustain this in the sense of the ability to win will not be too difficult for OKC to overcome. And they might repeat. They might do it again next season. The trick is they've already done it right now to where even if you look at Boston, it's like, well, look, Boston couldn't keep it together. I don't know that they'd be selling off all these guys had Tatum not gotten hurt, first of all. But imagine had Boston won the title in 2022. Now, we know how Boston's path unfolded. Had they won it in 2022 and then had the exact same trajectory, where maybe they get upset in the playoffs a couple times, then they win it last year, that's a heck of a run.
Bad news for the Buccaneers as Tristan Wirfs will miss multiple weeks.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We have to talk about it. It's probably one of the top 5 worst things that could have come out about the Bucs, as we're just a couple of weeks away from training camp. But Tristan Wirfs is set to miss multiple games after having knee surgery on Tuesday. We're going to talk about how this affects the offense as well as the roster coming up in a little bit. But Evan, let's just start with the news in general that Wirfs had surgery. There was more damage than initially thought. Now it looks like he is going to start the season on the physically unable to perform list.
Well, possibly. It's
right.
Looking like it.
Yeah, it's not definite, but it looks to be trending in that direction. And if that's the case, he's guaranteed to miss the first 4 games. That's at Atlanta, at Houston in prime time, home against the Jets, home against the Eagles. So what was your reaction to the news on Wednesday morning?
I mean, confusion, right? Confusion in the sense that if it was this severe of an issue, it's troublesome as to why it was, has such a result where he's going to miss like a quarter of the season, right? Like we haven't even started training camp yet. And we're waiting till July 8th to have surgery. So, I'm not going to, I need more information on how this all happened before truly understanding the gravity of how all these decisions were made. But I definitely want some answers. I think the fans deserve some answers. Maybe it was just a miscalculation or a setback. Tristan tweaked it. We'll find out. But that's the confusion part. Where I was not too confused is, David Shealy and myself were at mandatory minicamp. We didn't see Tristan for any of the voluntary stuff, which I guess maybe should have triggered me a little bit. Veterans sitting out for voluntary stuff, not rare. But given how Tristan was so excited to be a part of practice last year when he was going through the contract stuff, he hated sitting out practice. So he seemed like one of those guys like Antoine, certainly like Jamel, some of the veterans that show up during the voluntary portion. But when he was out there for the mandatory stuff, he did not look good. He was in that big old brace. They had him off to the side. He looked like when he was trying to get back to play post-bye week against the Giants, that's how he looked to me. Like he looked like a dude that was just going through it. And, I think all of us, at least the day that I was out there, I'm turning left and right going like, man, Tristan looks bad. And Bowles, of course, said, it's precautionary and he should be ready for training camp. So you think, oh, maybe it's a sprain. Maybe it's something that he'll just have to lay off for a month and he'll be good. But obviously it's much worse. And, now we got to discuss the ramifications of it.
Yeah, it's not a good time. And Hugo on Twitter reached out. I had forwarded you the message because we were going to talk about it. And Hugo said, "Hi, James. Question. If he's been carrying this injury since last season, why is he having the surgery now and not a few months ago? Greetings from Uruguay." He wrote that part in Spanish. I'm not going to butcher the pronunciation. I'll give you the translation. But yeah, I mean, to your point, you're not the only one kind of confused by it. Hugo's confused by it.
And remember this, that standard operating procedure for any NFL team out there. The season is over. You go through your end-of-season interviews. You also go through your end-of-season medical stuff. And decisions are made about, do you have to do surgery? Hey, like you're going to have to, rehab this injury, that injury. I mean, every player is like hurt at the end of the season. So, there's a multitude of things that you got to really worry about once the year is over. So there had to have been, and this isn't with me talking to anybody, but based on the SOP here, there had to have been a conversation between Tristan and the Bucs medical team about what to do about that knee, because obviously it was a problem last season, and entering the offseason, they needed to figure out what to do with that thing. Somehow, we don't know exactly what those conversations were. Hopefully we have more information in a couple of weeks when training camp begins, but ultimately the decision was to let it heal. and see if that was going to do the case and lay off the surgery. How that decision came about, why it turned why it went so south, and why they went in there and there was more issues to be found, we don't know, and we're gonna have to sit on that one for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and according to Rick Stroud, he had said that Wirfs had aggravated a right knee injury that he suffered last season. The Bucs had scheduled arthroscopic surgery on Tuesday, but there was more damage than what they initially thought, and I think that's kind of where the timetable gets all screwed up. Maybe if things were the way that they thought they were going to be, now he might miss the beginning of training camp, maybe even miss the first game of the season. It probably isn't quite as long of a potential recovery period as it looks like they're going to have now. But this was a gut punch to the Bucs, to Bucs fans, to a lot of people out there, because no one really saw it coming. It's really kind of frustrating, especially when you take a look at the fact, and we're going to get to the roster and the depth chart a little bit later, but you take a look at the fact that Justin School was allowed to walk out the door when he filled in for Wirfs last year. And I'm not going to say he was, the same level, because nobody's on the level of Tristan Wirfs, but he was serviceable. And so now,
and there was continuity there and whatnot. Just remember for everybody out there, outside of the game against the Giants, School was somebody who played and got better at right tackle. We don't have a lot of tape necessarily of him at left. And the game he played at left, they were against the Giants. And that was one of the snoozers of the season, actually, for this team. So it would have been different, but certainly the continuity would have helped, since continuity has been the key word this offseason. And I think it just – I don't want to be hyperbolic here. Do we want to talk about – I have a positive spin zone here. Give you the other side of the coin to it. Obviously, we can always talk about the negatives with Tristan Wirfs being injured. That's really obvious, right? It's a problem. And between Tristan Wirfs being healthy and injured, I'm going to choose healthy 900 times out of 900. But here's what I'll say in just the projection of this team. This is what's good news. This is coming down the chute, right? When Gedeke got hurt week 2, you threw School into the fire. You learned the hard way some of the things he could not do when he faced Aiden Hutchinson, and there was a chip plan and all these things devised moving forward. I even looked at the runs last year, right versus left. So they started that Detroit game, and they actually leaned on the School side. There were 7 runs to the outside on the right, and there were 3 runs to the left. That didn't really work out too well, to the point where we got to the Atlanta game, the last of School's stay there at right tackle before Gedeke, and we had 7 runs to the left, 4 runs to the right. So and by the way, all those runs to the right were in the first half. In the fourth quarter, everything went to the left. So you're going to find out what people can do. But my point is, Liam Cohen was fact-finding things about Justin School in live time, in the middle of the season, in the beginning, just when you're in the heat of the moment. They got 6 weeks, 8 if you include the next couple of weeks where Grizzard can really hunker down and start thinking about some things that they want to do. So they will enter the season. The first few games are typically scripted to an extent. They know what they're going to do. So they'll have a game plan. They will know what to do. They'll also know what Heck can and cannot do effectively. And I would imagine, even though it's probably a little bit scary to play him in preseason games, you're going to have to play him in some preseason games to get him some live action and to really see what he can do. Obviously, if he were to get hurt, that would be a big problem. But I also tend to be someone that says it's football, and you got to learn about him. And though, you're obviously going to hold out other people on the offensive line. So, we can get to that discussion another time, but you have time on your side at least. So that's the good here, is you don't have to start scrambling around pieces week 2. You got a whole training camp. They'll build out the continuity. they'll figure something out until Tristan can come back.
Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drink, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed.
A ton of rumors swirling around about Najee Harris and a potential firework accident this weekend.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Daniel, I thought there was absolutely no way that this was a real story, a real situation. It had to be a fabrication. Lo and behold, it absolutely was not. Najee Harris was involved in a firework accident that resulted into a superficial eye injury. What is that going to do for his prospects for the start of this 2025 season? We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to get into the players with the most to prove going into training camp. Guys like Quentin Johnston, obviously heading into year 3. This is a big, big season. Some may say it's make or break. Zion Johnson transitioning to center. How's that going to go? And then Junior Colson, after a down rookie season, this is a big one for him to see if he can break out.
There's a lot of players with a lot to prove. And for some guys, it's like, hey, if it's doing and happening like this again, like you might not get another crack at it in 2026. But this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. David, this was a buy or sell. This was an overreaction. This is something we both sold on Wednesday's show and something maybe we should have bought a little bit more. Obviously, I thought it was weird, and we kind of laid out what the facts of it were on Wednesday as far as there being a firework accident in Najee Harris's hometown, but no actual real reporting on it. Well, the real reporting came out in droves on Thursday, and this is a statement that was let out by Doug Hendrickson before any of the big news scoopers could actually get anything out. He said Najee Harris was present at a 4th of July event where a fireworks mishap resulted in injuries to several attendees. Najee sustained a superficial eye injury during the incident, but is fully expected to be ready for the upcoming NFL season. Let's start with this, the obvious. Dumb. Just so dumb. Like, it's crazy to me that players still find themselves in these situations where you have illegal fireworks, according to reports, industrial strength fireworks, according to reports, in an area that you're not actually legally allowed to set them off, and something bad happens. You do things, you add up all 3 of those things, yeah, something bad is going to happen. Now, good news that he's expected to play this season, David, obviously, but like, you see this and you're like, man, like, so dumb, like, stupid that this happened, but also like feels like a big bullet or firework was dodged in this case.
Yeah, I just don't understand how NFL players put themselves in these type of situations when, to me, it seems like they're completely avoidable. Like, you know how important you are and what these things can do. And I brought it up when we talked about it on Wednesday. There's a gigantic example of how bad it can go with Jason Pierre-Paul basically missing part of his hand because of a firework accident. Now, we don't know all of the details of exactly what happened with the situation, so not going to cast any blame other than the fact that you shouldn't be putting yourselves in these types of situations where these type of results can occur. So it's just one of those things, like, you got to know how to control what you can control and the situations and the environments that you're in and the people that you are around. When we're talking about fireworks, you know, this is something that can go horribly wrong, not just with Jason Pierre-Paul. We've seen it with numerous examples throughout the world, throughout the history of time. This is something that can cause major, major damage. And thankfully, according to the reports, it's just a superficial eye injury, and it should not at least threaten his career, which it absolutely could have.
Absolutely, it could have. And this is the thing, like, superficial eye injury makes it seem better, but it also kind of feels like we don't know everything yet, man. Like, and when it took so long for everything to actually come out, and honestly, shout out to the Chargers sleuths and the, you know, small accounts that had it right to an extent from the get-go. I mean, it sounds like he still has his eyeball, right? Because if you're saying superficial, that's at least something I feel safe saying, is that he still has both of his eyes intact. At the same time, like, there's a picture of him. There's no, you know, real kind of reports. The Chargers declined to comment reportedly as well on it.
No surprise there.
And man, this is a dude who has a lot of money. Like, he didn't have crazy prospects in free agency. He signed quickly, but it wasn't a multi-year deal. It wasn't a, you know, double digits and millions kind of a deal. He has, we're going to talk about guys with a lot to prove, man. He has something to prove, and a first round running back that's going to be nipping at his heels. But like this, even though you're saying expects to start the season, man, we're like a month and a half out, you know, a month and a week out from this season.
I mean, the Chargers are playing a football game at the end of the month, Daniel.
Yeah, man. Like, and it's just like that training camp time could be important too, because this is his first year in this offense. So great to know we'll be back for the season, but like, how long is this superficial injury going to keep him out?
Yeah, that's a huge question mark. And we saw last year what happened with Justin Herbert, right? With his injury and how much that affected him in the beginning of his season. Like, you just don't know. And, you know, Justin obviously is a supercomputer, so that's a little bit of a different situation. But with Najee, as you pointed out, this is a completely new situation, a new team, a new offense. All of these things, all of these elements require you to be on the field as much as possible so you can drill it and drill it and drill it and make sure that you have that muscle memory programmed. The more time that you miss, the more detrimental it's going to be to your ability to pick up this offense and go out there and execute it immediately.
Well, we lost David. His internet went out mid-show, so it's going to be me taking over for the rest of it here. But glad he got to give his thoughts on Najee Harris. I mean, just what a crazy story that we're talking about. And if you don't think the Chargers curse is real, this whole incident happened on Spano Street, which I think says a lot, and I mean, makes a lot of sense as Chargers fans know. Something that is seemingly happened to them, weird stuff, crazy stuff all the time. But I think the next big question is kind of what this means for Omarion Hampton, because even though this is something that is outside of football, we have to look at the football perspective of this. And I think with Najee Harris having this happen, for his agent, who obviously isn't going to want to raise more alarm than is necessary, saying that he'll be ready for the season, that's just a very specific type of message that it's sending, which means he is going to miss some time, just not enough time to have him miss games. But I think for Omarion Hampton, what this just means is an opportunity, potentially an opportunity to cut into that whatever share was going to be between him and Najee Harris, and potentially take that job over sooner rather than later, maybe even going into week one as the main bell cow back, which may have happened either way. There's a lot of reasons to believe, you know, because of the explosiveness that he brings to the table, because of just the prospects of what he could be and what his ceiling is, that he will take over. But it did feel like it might be a more gradual thing with a team that really loves Najee Harris, a guy in Najee Harris that Jim Harbaugh has been recruiting since, you know, his high school days, basically, and kind of always wanted him on the team. A guy that the Chargers went and picked up on the first day of free agency, which I think tells you how much they think of him. But with all of those things, it's also, he has to be there. He has to prove that he should get those carries. He has to not be an obvious kind of disadvantage to you outside of playing someone like Omarion Hampton, who might bring those other things to the table. So one accident could mean something beneficial for a rookie like Omarion Hampton, who is looking to kind of earn that role, and he'll still have to, and hopefully he's always cracked up to be, because man, this rushing attack with Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton, two big physical backs that can hurt you multiple ways in the passing game and the running game, felt really good compared to what the Chargers have had in that backfield as far as running a traditional run game and fixing what has been such a weakness for this team. it's hard for this not to impact how you feel about that a little bit, not knowing necessarily what Najee Harris's availability is going to be, how late he's going to be picking up this offense. He is a veteran. It is still a new offense. So maybe an opportunity for Amari and Hampton, but a bad thing for the Chargers running game overall, or at least something that's going to have to work itself out during training camp whenever Najee Harris can get out there.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Look, they're saving you money already.
The Tigers landed another one.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
On the day where Brian Kelly and his staff landed 5-star defensive end Lamar Brown, one of the biggest gets in this entire class, this number 7 overall prospect in the country in the on-3 composite, a kid from U-High in Baton Rouge that LSU's recruited for 4 years. If you're an everydayer, you know all this because you watched the previous episode, or maybe you were with us live whenever we went live after Lamar Brown committed. But the day was not done, not even close. If you were with us earlier in the week, we told you there were 3 prospects within LSU had on the table announcing on Thursday. Lamar Brown, it went the Tigers' way, and that's a massive, massive win. But there were 2 others. DeAnthony Lafayette out of Orlando and Jamarian Carlton out of Temple, Texas. Well, it was DeAnthony Lafayette who was up after Lamar Brown, and he did, in fact, pick the LSU Tigers. So if you missed it, we'll give you the deets here on DeAnthony Lafayette. He is 6'1", 230 pounds. He is a 3-star. And I know the drill. 3-star Matt, his national ranking, 699. What are we really talking about here? Why is LSU taking a 3-star edge? Well, I want to remind you of what Shea Dixon said earlier this week. He was with us earlier this week, as he is every week, to talk recruiting. And Shea talked about DeAnthony Lafayette. Listen to what Shea said earlier this week.
There'll be 3 guys, D linemen, DNs, edges, who announced Thursday with LSU hats on the table. I feel the best about DeAnthony Lafayette. I put a pick in. He's a kid coming out of Lake Nona in Florida who, right after Vandy, Kevin Peoples and Baker offered him, and he had not been a highly touted recruit at that point, but he had a just unbelievable year stat-wise. And then once they got out to see him in person, it was like, okay, he's 6'5", 6'1", but long arms, can cover, can play that stand-up outside linebacker kind of edge spot. And they continued to recruit him, brought him in on visits. And Miami will have a hat on the table. Oklahoma's really pressing. But as long as anything doesn't go wildly crazy in the next 48 hours, I do think that you add one more to the list there with him and Lafayette.
Y'all, what do I say all the time when it comes to recruits? I am not so much interested in the star ranking or the rating or anything like that. I am more interested in who has offered, who is pursuing you. That is more telling to me than what a scouting service slaps as a rating on a player. Look, I can run through that with Lamar Brown, but it's everybody. He's a 5-star, top 10 player in the country. Everyone offered him. So look at DeAnthony Lafayette. Who did you beat out? Miami? He was recruited, by the way, by Jason Taylor. That would be Pro Football Hall of Fame defensive end Jason Taylor, who was recruiting him to Miami. A kid from Florida, by the way, in Orlando. Oklahoma, whose head coach is Brent Venables, a longtime successful defensive coordinator. Do you think Brent Venables knows what he's looking for in talent on the defensive side of the ball? And then there's LSU. Blake Baker was the primary recruiter on DeAnthony Lafayette. Do you trust Blake Baker and his evaluation and what he's looking for in a prospect? Oh, by the way, Florida and Boston College and Illinois and Pitt and Mississippi State and Vanderbilt and Wake Forest all offered as well. Penn State, there was a bunch of others, G5 schools. But the bottom line is, when you got interest from LSU, Oklahoma, Miami, Florida, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Illinois, that tells the story on this kid. Maybe the measurables didn't pop for everybody. Maybe he wasn't interested in everybody. But he blew up in his junior season. The coaches thought enough to go see him. They saw him and said, want him. Let's see how he plays his senior year. Maybe that 3-star becomes a 4-star. Maybe the 700 ranking becomes 300. Who knows? But the bottom line is, I say it all the time. Do you trust the coach's evaluation? If you do, you should be excited about this one. Now, the other thing that's really interesting is the positional group, right? Because with Lamar Brown and now DeAnthony Lafayette, and a week ago, you got Trenton Henderson. That is now 3 edge players in this class of commitments for LSU. And this is really significant, y'all. Don't lose sight of this. It's really significant because we are looking at a year at defensive end or edge this year that kind of rivals what LSU had to do at linebacker last year. I say last year, this most recent class, the 2025 class. LSU signed 5 linebackers in the class of 2025. They had to. You're going to lose Whit Weeks to the draft. You're going to lose West Weeks to eligibility. Harold Perkins is going to be gone as well. Look, you're going to return Devon Keys. You're going to return Tylen Singleton. But after that, you had nobody. So you went and signed 5 linebackers. And you've got guys that are super versatile. You've got C.J. Ross coming in. You got Zach Weeks, the third of the Weeks brothers. You got Keelan Moses, who probably projects at that star position. So, you went out there, Jaden Breaker, you went out and signed 5 linebackers because you needed to fortify your depth there. And it looks like that's what they're doing here at edge for 26. Remember, you went into the portal and you signed Pyburn and Jamari Butler and Patrick Payton, and you got Gabe Relaford back, and you got some other bodies there, right? You got Kalaj Cobbins, you got Dylan Carpenter, you've got, the incoming signing class as well. But the point is, in 2026, the only experienced prospect returning is going to be Gabe Relaford. After that, you're going to be super thin, just like you're looking at Devon Keys at linebacker in 26, and then a lot of young players. So you had to fortify your numbers, and that's what they're doing. They've got 3 already with Lamar Brown, Trenton Henderson, 2 5-stars, by the way, and now with DeAnthony Lafayette. So, and they may not be done there as well. They had a hat on the table for Jamari and Carlton, the prospect out of Temple, Texas. He did not pick LSU. He picked Baylor, as Shea told us earlier in the week that he would. But that's 3, and they may not be done at the edge spot as well. So we'll see how all that transpires. But, man, it is so impressive what LSU is doing right now and how they're putting this together. I had a chance to talk to Sam Spiegelman, and Sam is the national recruiting analyst for Rivals, who just got bought by On3, and so they're merged again. But I had a chance to talk to Sam Spiegelman about this class. Again, this is a national recruiting analyst who doesn't just cover LSU, covers the national recruiting scene.
Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drink, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed.
About time the Pacers showed a comeback win. It's been a whole month. They win their Summer League debut game.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast.
Another crazy Pacers comeback. They waited a full 4 weeks this time between them. I mean, it just keeps happening. 16 points down in the first half against the Cavs. They come back to win again, beating Cleveland to open Summer League. Summer League's not about the results, although of course they came back and won, right? Of course the Pacers did. It's more about the individuals, and there was a lot of stuff to talk about there too. Quentin Jackson, right after signing a two-way, was just absolutely sublime, approaching too good for Summer League territory. Ray J. Dennis looked great, one of his best games I've seen. Furphy was doing some stuff before he got hurt. Lots of good things to talk about from individuals for the Pacers on a fun night for them, right? Isaac Jacob, their head coach, good relationship with Tyrese Halliburton. Obviously, they came from Sacramento. Both got drenched with the water after the win. It was his first win. Quentin Jackson's leading the charge on that, so he's doing post-game media, just completely soaked for a very excited Pacers team. But Quentin Jackson, who led that part of things, he's the vet of this team, right? He's almost 27. This is his fourth Summer League or something like that. Just signed his third two-way with the Pacers, right? He's like a leader for this team, and I wondered how he would start Summer League, because last year he was quite bad in the first game and was good the rest of them. And when you look at this team, they need him to be a scorer initiator type, and I just wondered, what that would look like playing with other guards. Like Cam Jones is playing, Ray J. Dennis is playing, other ball handlers hit the floor in this game. Buddy Boeheim played, Steven Ashworth played quite well in his 9 minutes, right? Like I wondered what they would need from Quentin Jackson, and he was just absolutely sensational in every single way, right? He's not like young. He's not in this developing talent pool for the Pacers when you look at their Summer League group. But what I talked about with him earlier in the week, something I wonder, and I'm going to expand on that a little here, is if they signed him to a two-way, thinking he could be their third point guard this season, but just fill in when there's an injury to McConnell or Nembhard, and they might only need him for 50 games on that two-way. I should also say this, like, it's possible that they just keep Freeman and Dennis and Peter on a two-way and then just convert Quentin Jackson to a standard deal at some point. Like, he's still playing for something in theory. He is just under contract with the team now, which is deserved. He's very good. And you can see in these games just what the appeal is of him. The same it's always been, right? This guy is just so fast with the ball. And in these Summer League settings where the team defense isn't quite as tight, and the individual defenders aren't quite as good, he can just get by anybody, and he can get into the lane and create a shot that he likes or that his team likes. And so it wasn't like a slow start necessarily. It just wasn't quite, as loud in the first half for Quentin Jackson, but he just took off in the third quarter and ended up having what I would consider, and I think anybody who watches the game would consider, the best performance by any Pacer in this game by a healthy amount, and was so good by the end of the night, right? 24 points, his final tally in this one, on 8 for 10 from the field, 3 assists as well. All 7 of his free throws dropped, and really came alive after halftime. In the first half, Quentin Jackson took 3 shots and he had 8 points. Like, it was fine. He was 2 for 3. He made all 4 of his foul shots, but a little quieter. 16-point second half on 6 for 7 from the field, made all 3 of his foul shots. All 3 of his assists came in that second half. In the third quarter specifically, was 12 of those points. He made all 5 of his shots in the third quarter. Like, it was a team level comeback. A lot of it, like, I don't even think Quentin was on the floor for one particular stretch where their defense really ratcheted up, but he was often on the floor for their best offensive stretches of the second half. Really brought the team to life and showed why he is a veteran player playing Summer League, that he should be one of the best players on the floor, right? That a guy with his experience level should be awesome. And he was just terrific for the Pacers in this game, and in ways that you'd hope he is if you're the Pacers, right? You want his best skills to be so much better than anyone else on the floor. And, and I watched a lot of the games. I was at the first half of Pelicans Timberwolves. I was at the Flagg Bronny game. I saw some of Nuggets Bucks. Like, I could argue that on the first day of Summer League in Vegas, Quentin Jackson was one of the best 5 players, like, in any game, in any game that was played. He was that good, and he should be at his experience level. But I think it was great for the Pacers to see that, especially right after he signed a deal. And then he leads with the vibes, and they were joking about calling him LA because he's just got this LA vibe that everybody likes, his spirit. Radler signing a 2A. Great day for him. And the way my credentialing works, I can just share interview stuff on this podcast. So here is Ray J. Dennis and then Quentin Jackson talking about Quentin's performance and him signing a two-way.
He signed a two-way a couple days ago. What did you learn from him, both with the Mad Ants and Pacers last year?
I mean, being around him all the time, you just like his personality bigger than life, right? So you just naturally gonna have a ton of energy. He's gonna bring energy to practice, games, everything like that. And then just being a dog. Like, I mean, obviously I see the way he plays, and when you're around that type of stuff, it's contagious.
What did that mean to you to sign a two-way again, be back for another year?
Oh man, that's nothing short of a blessing. A lot of work has went into it, but I can't, just put all of it on me. A lot comes from the trust of my teammates, the coaching staff, front office, all of that. So, I'm forever grateful. Like I said, nothing short of a blessing.
Very revealing. Quentin Jackson just does have an infectious personality, and that bleeds into the way he plays, right? Led by example in so many ways as a scorer in this one. Really, really fantastic night. 8 for 10 from the field, and 24 points on 10 shots is just menacing. Really efficient game from him. Made his only three. Did a ton of stuff really well. And I think my favorite play from him in the game was he was defending. I can't remember who it was that was posting him up on the Cavs. It might have been Naquan Tomlin. I might just be saying that because Tomlin was so good in general. But somebody was posting up Quentin Jackson, and he really battled in the post on defense, and he kept fighting, and the guy got off the ball. He couldn't get low enough to get a shot up. And Quentin Jackson was so psyched about his post defense that he started flexing and like celebrating the stop under the basket. Play is still happening. Like, the Cavs are still running offense and his teammates are still defending, and he's just standing there flexing under the basket. The Pacers did get a stop. It was very funny. He was absolutely sensational. A+ start to Summer League for Quentin Jackson. And, you shouldn't be expected to be this good, but it's what you want to see as the Pacers. And Quentin Jackson, that he looked like the best player on the floor when he has more experience than everybody else and is kind of in a leadership role in some ways for the first time. Like, this is the first Summer League he's played where he's expected to be the best player on the team, and he no doubt about it was in this one. But he was joined in the backcourt by a player that I don't think people didn't expect to be good because he has 1 year of experience under his belt and is literally under contract with the Pacers. But I don't think people think of Ray J. Dennis as some like offensive monster scorer. He was in this game, right? Ray J. Dennis, I don't know if many listeners know a lot about him because he signed with the Pacers midseason and didn't play as much for them last year because of that, because he was on his two-way, couldn't play in their magical playoff run, right? But they brought him in and they liked him right after they waived Tristan Newton on their two-way in early January of this year. And he came in and like everybody I talked to about him who had dealt with him prior to him coming to the Pacers was like, oh, I love this kid. Love this kid. And they all said he makes his teammates better. And that, he really is all about that passing stuff. And he had 9 assists in this game. Right, that was on display. He is a good table-setting point guard. He's just so active, right? That's what impresses me is like, yeah, he obviously has the stats to have a nice night. There's so many things he did really well, but he was just everywhere. He got an offensive rebound, gets on a drive, drawing a bunch of fouls early in this game. Like, he took 7 free throws. This was a crazy foul game. 62 fouls between both teams. But his activity was really high. And so to not only see passing from a guy that's been described to me as a really good passer and making his teammates better in that way, Ray J. Dennis was awesome as a scorer in this game. He has, I don't know if it's a signature shot when you're a second-year player, but like his thing to me that I think of when I think of him scoring the ball is this floater that he gets to a lot. Like, he gets a couple, like a half step on his defender, gets in the paint, and he puts that up. He was making those. He was sticking some like tougher threes in this game. He took 8 threes and made 4 of them. Obviously, your game's going to look good when you make that many shots, but he also made 4 twos, made 6 free throws. Just a really, really impressive all-around Ray J. Dennis game. And I don't know that fans have really seen one of those from him. He had some/many with the Mad Ants, but he hadn't had like a, Enrique Freeman was playing in real games for the Pacers last year, right, given their center situation. Quentin Jackson played in many real games for the Pacers last year. I don't know if Ray J. Dennis played in a game where they were like, they needed him in the rotation, maybe 1 or 2, but he didn't have that kind of lasting impression. So a lot of people, this is the first like major real minutes they saw from him. And I have not, like, I've seen him be a good scorer before. I've seen 20-point games from him in Mad Ants games before. I've never seen that level. And that's kind of something I wanted to ask about after the game is like, where did that part of it come from for him? Because, I think of him as that guy who makes everybody else better and is that offensive engine. He was looking to score in this game, and he just talked about, when the game needs that, that's what he'll bring. The aggression's there, and he was really good. I also asked head coach Isaac Jacob about him because I thought that was a big part of this as well. I wanted to hear the head coach on Ray J. Dennis, and he said something about him being quite good leading up to this game.
Ray J had a lot of successful plays as well. What'd you like about what he was able to do out there?
Yeah, Ray J coming in his second summer league, like all camp, he's been one of our better players. Can't get sped up, almost a veteran in some ways of summer league, and I thought he took another step in his development.